Good afternoon and welcome to the final Power Hour session for 2012. My God, I wish it was 2020. I think we can probably all agree that this is a year we're very, very happy to say goodbye to, or maybe not. Maybe despite all of the challenges, it's been a great year from you. If that is the case, then do let us know in the comments. I am genuinely delighted to be closing this year's Power Hour with today's session. And we will finish on a very funny story about why this is the right session to finish on today. I'm joined by Karolina Pelc, who is one of the most extraordinarily talented, driven women I know working in the gaming industry today. I never fail to be impressed by her ability and her commitment to the projects she undertakes. Karolina is currently the owner of Basic Strategy, but probably most widely recognised for her time as the casino director at Leo Vegas during a phase where they had absolutely tremendous growth, which I think we have to say must be associated to her work there during that time. She's also worked at SG Digital, Betson Group, Bodog UK, Paddy Power and Inter Casino. In addition to this, she is a vocal ambassador for gender diversity, as we should indeed all be. She was voted in the top 10 most influential women 2018 by iGaming Business. She featured on 20 People to Watch in 2019 on a list by Global Gaming. And she's in Facebook's Women in Gaming campaign, She Talks Games. Karolina is one of the people that I look at and think, how does she do it all? Karolina, thank you very much for joining me and making the time today to talk about being unproductive.
Indeed. Thank you very much for this lovely introduction, Shona. It makes me feel quite humbled. So I appreciate that. I think this is a great follow-up session because I did a presentation for iGaming Next, the big reset back in April, where Pierre asked me to sort of disclose a little bit of my tips and tricks around leveraging technology to be productive. And he pinged me the other day asking, could we follow up and see, where you've come in the 6 months since then. And so I want to start maybe around why even productivity is such a big subject for me, and why did I start looking at all the methods of being productive and tools that you could use. And the honest reality is, running my own business as a consultant right after I came back from maternity. These are two brand new realities that I had to face.
Two big life changes.
Exactly. And I think for the first time, I really wanted to make sure that I can be super efficient during the working hours so that I can finish on time, because I was no longer tapping into just my own personal time, staying and working late, but it was the time with my child. And I have great expectation of being a present and engaged mom in addition to my career. So I think this was a big personal motivation for 2020 to really structure myself better, organize myself better, and read up on what people are doing to improve their everyday working life.
I've listened to your session and it was extremely interesting. And you recommended like a whole host of tools. And I think what was great is most of the things you recommended were, rather than just one of these, like a BuzzFeed list of here are 20 tools you can use. These were all tools that you had actually had experience of, so you understood like the pros and cons and how to make them work for you. So of the tools you recommended 6 months ago, have you found any new ones? Are there any tools that now, having really got them into your day-to-day routine, that you just couldn't do without? And are there some that you've gone, that is a great idea, but for me it doesn't work and this is why?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I stand by majority of the tools that I introduced because I've been using them for a while and daily since then. I'm still every day so thankful for the integration of Calendly with Zoom and Google Calendar, because it saves so much time, and it still comes as a surprise to many people I recommend it to or I send the links to. I've started using a new functionality in Calendly because it now lets you time box your time, and you can set up different links for different types of meetings. So for example, during my workday, I do a lot of focused work. I do a lot of customer workshops, but I also do intro calls with either potential clients for solutions that I represent or just lead generation calls. So in Calendly, at time box my availability for those calls for the time where I tend to be less productive, where I know I'm not going to get through any big tasks anyway. So I only allow people to sort of schedule those type of meetings between 2 and 3 and so on. I understand that not everybody has that ability to manage the calendar to that extent, but for those who do, I highly recommend it. And I also introduced a new routine to sort of self-development and book reading, because as many of us, we don't have time to read books. I'm trying to listen to them on Audible on what I call fake commute, because I actually get dressed and leave the house and go to the tube station, get a coffee, and come back to the house, because otherwise
I am a huge fan of the fake commute. So I do the same. I get up, I do my workout here on the floor, and then I get dressed as if I'm going to work, go get a coffee, walk around the block, and come back. And I think for me, and I know you've found the same, it's a great way to just get your head into the working day.
Grounded. Yeah, absolutely. And not just end up in your pajamas until 3 p.m. because you just found some urgent stuff to deal with. But I got myself to the point where I got overwhelmed by all the books I wanted to read. And I find, especially in the field of productivity books and habit books, there's a lot of repetition, and there's a lot of use cases and correspondence from the readers, which I'm not necessarily interested in. So I sort of introduced the stepping stone into reading. So I now use Blinkist, and I put every title that catches my attention, someone recommends, or I see somewhere on a podcast, into Blinkist, and I listen to 1 or 2 Blinkist abstracts every day, which takes 20 to 25 minutes max. And I only read the books that really did catch my attention through the abstract. And sometimes I purchase the book on Audible and I jump right into the interesting chapter, which saves so much time. And perhaps it's not the most appreciative to the art of writing books, but they're not thrillers or novels. At the end of the day, they are almost like productivity manuals or self-development manuals. It's much easier this way.
I think I have to say, I think that's a really great recommendation. I think so often we can get caught up in like, I must read all of these books. And only once I've read these books and then, written out a plan, can I then take the next step. And I think being able to like get that bite-sized piece of information. And I think sometimes you talk about repetition. I think that's very true. And it's almost as if some writers have this kind of presenteeism, like I must write this amount of words in order to get the book deal. Whereas actually what you really just want is because we're all busy, and that absolutely should not be a badge of honor, but like, what are the key takeaways? And then if I really want to understand that, because for me, often I'm like, I don't care what the psychology is. I just want something that works. I don't need to know the reasons behind it. I just want it to work. So I think that might be something that I add to mine. And I know you suggested it was a bit like wine tasting, and I like that analogy.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, sip a little and buy a bottle what tastes really good. But you were asking as well on things that don't work. And I have to admit, I was recommending, and especially in the workshops that I've done for a couple of companies post this presentation, I expanded the materials with nutrition and sleep advice and some research around coffee and how it works. And I'm a big supporter of the whole Why We Sleep book and theory, but I just came to a conclusion that trying to sleep for 8 hours made me stress more about trying to comply with this than the benefit I was getting from the supposedly appropriate time of rest. So I just gave up on that. And I think the conclusion for me was, no matter how many books you read, how many people you listen to, podcasts, presentations, take everything in moderation and apply common sense, because at the end of the day, you've got some gut instincts. We are not designed to self-harm ourselves. So just don't think that you need to follow everything to the exact line. There is space for flexibility and adjusting it to your own needs.
Yeah, for me, actually, I think that's one of the most valuable things to think, because there's so much information out there. I mean, here are you and I on a Friday afternoon talking about it, that sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. And I think it's really good to be open to lots of ideas, to be open to like new ideas, different ways of working, to be open to other tools. But I think ultimately what's really important is understanding yourself and how you work and knowing what works for you. And one of the things I've become quite big on this year is like this whole the comparison trap. So I think it's really important like not to compare like how you do something or your success to somebody else's. And I know we're going to talk about, actually I think we're coming on to talk about social media, and I think there's a real danger in social media, both in work and personal life, of comparing your inside to somebody else's outside in social media. So I think that's like, and that's one of the things I think you kind of, what made you realize the importance of being unproductive, that was as important as being productive, and sometimes perhaps one of the kind of key ingredients in your productivity?
Yeah, I think in generally throughout all this research, one of the most repetitive things that kept coming up was the criticism of procrastination in general. Every single habit and productivity book tells you to cut all the distractions and put really strong rules in place not to procrastinate. And increasingly, I think the understanding of the addictive, nature of social media and how much of time is being wasted on their reached mainstream through the popularity of the books like Hooked or the Netflix documentary like Dilemma. But at the same time, I think people started to judge themselves more for procrastinating and getting distracted, and it started to be so associated with laziness and bad time management, by task management. And I started to wonder what's so different, because we are designed in a way where we need procrastination and we need distraction. No one is able to be 100% focused all of the time. Procrastination is known as a coping mechanism to release yourself from a state of discomfort. And it was always there, both the actual discomfort when we're bored, when we are tired, when we are stressed, and the procrastination or the distraction. Before the times of technology, we had countless rounds of tea making, unnecessary cigarette breaks, water cooler chats with everyone in the office, or quite frankly staring at the computer screen without doing anything. So why are we criticizing so much, or being criticized and criticizing ourselves for the procrastination of the modern day, in which is very much more around social media, infinity polls, like news outlets designed to hook us further. And what I realized through that the main difference between how we used to procrastinate and how we do it now is that we don't actually get the benefit of procrastination, which is clearing your mind. We don't get to rest. Even when we distract ourselves from focus, we keep on being overloaded with information, with even more pings. And in addition to the internal triggers that make us need a distraction, we also have external triggers, so intrusive notification, pop-ups, and so on. So there is a reason why people started to pay more attention of the destructive element of procrastination, but I think we've thrown it all into one bucket, and we forgot that there can be constructive procrastination, there can be benefit of it. And I just want to clarify, by constructive procrastination, I don't refer to what's called high leverage activities. So you don't need to be meditating, doing yoga, or listening to inspirational podcasts to consider this type of procrastination constructive. I mean distraction and procrastination that brings you the benefit of giving your mind rest and letting you come back refreshed, re-energized, and able to focus again.
I think that's so, like, for me, that's just such a key part of it, because I think because we can become we're such high achievers, and we're like, we must be busy all the time and we must be like doing things. And the whole point of this, like procrastination or being unproductive or taking time out, is to just take time out. Like, it's okay to just, we talked about this, it's okay to just listen to your favorite album on Spotify and not do something else at the same time, or to watch something on Netflix that doesn't really involve, like, you having to think about it too much. So taking time out doesn't need to be structured. You don't need to find an activity to relax in those 30 minutes. You can just do nothing.
Yeah, Absolutely. And I think that's what I realized the importance of, because with all the working from home and the cutting the time on commute, I found myself in a situation where I didn't have more time for myself. I just worked more. And then I also realized that the more you deny yourself procrastination, the less you're able to focus, because it's a natural reaction of your body. So the main thing around it is try to just stay clear from the activities that give you the constant and frequent dopamine boost, because that works similar to nicotine. The more cigarettes you'll smoke in a short amount of time, the less you're going to be able to go without them. And it works similar with focus and procrastination. If you rather than taking a walk and just relaxing, doing nothing, thinking about nothing, or talking to a friend on the phone, if you spend that time on social media, Instagram, Facebook, or kind of infinity loop news page, you'll come back and you'll be able to focus for a very short amount of time before your body or your mind craves that dopamine kick again. So I guess that's the main lesson. I understood that, yeah, procrastination is being judged these days, but it's not all blamed on technology and the nature of media we consume. It's just we need to make smarter choices, but still give ourselves a break, and give ourselves the ability to just do nothing.
And how do you have a tool or a way of scheduling that do nothing time?
I have to schedule it in, because as part of the habit research, I started tracking, the habits I wanted to introduce or habits that I wanted to break. And I would put timeouts on there, little things like reading a normal book, listening to music without a second screen in my hand and doing something else, going for a walk and listening to birds rather than to a podcast. And I could just never get to it. I kept on crossing it out as unaccomplished at the end of the week. And I realized that until you understand that taking a time out is an actual prerequisite to be able to be productive, similarly as getting a good night's sleep is a prerequisite for your body to be able to be productive, and scheduling into your calendar with the exact same priority as other activities during the day, only then I myself am able to fulfill the plans for the week. So and the more I do it, the more I see the benefits. So the easier it is to actually prioritize this time for myself.
I completely agree on that, and I know that really works for me. I find that it's a bit different now because obviously not being in the office, and gyms have reopened finally. But I find that for me, like, I tend to, when I have a more structured working day, I'll book my gym classes and the time it takes me to get to and from the gym into my calendar, and that way I definitely go to the gym. And it's about prioritizing the things that are important for yourself, and the things that are important to your own mental well-being are the things that allow you to be productive. So we've got about 5 minutes left, and we've got some questions which I'll come to at the end. So if you've asked one, thank you. Let's talk about the mythical creature that is 2021, and which I think we're all really hoping will be a better year. How should we approach 2021? What are your kind of top tips, and what traps should we not fall into?
I think again, following up on the brain washing into perceiving certain things as something, we see the end and the beginning of a new year, especially this horrid year, as new beginnings and a fresh start. And people tend to just reach too far in their new resolutions and set themselves unattainable goals, and then gets really quickly demotivated by failures. So I think rather than waiting for the 31st of December to start fresh and put in this really productive way of living with zero distraction, or opposite, have amazing big plans for being able to meditate for 2 hours a day and take a bath every night. Start small and start already now, and set yourself small goals so that you can see progress, because it is the progress that fuels your well-being and that maintains your motivation to keep going. So I would just say give yourself credit. It's been a tough year. Don't think that 2021 is going to solve magically all challenges, and because we're not going to be given a fresh start. So take it easy and start small, fail small, and that way you're not gonna overwhelm yourself with anxiety about the new year and how to prepare.
Okay, fantastic. Right, some questions. Do you use any digital whiteboards, and if so, what ones do you recommend? I don't know who these are from, sorry.
I don't use a digital whiteboard, actually. I've researched a couple and I didn't get the same purpose from it. So I actually have a really big whiteboard right above my desk in a working space. This is probably the only real tool that I use. And I'm still one of those people that draws on a whiteboard and sends pictures of it to other people, or sometimes I'll even turn the camera. So no, but I will happily hear any suggestions of a digital whiteboard that is useful.
Okay, and can you recommend any productivity podcasts?
No, I recommend Abstract. I don't. There is a podcast from Make Time, but I find the podcast from particular authors of books too stuck in a single approach. So there are tools online where you can go in and fill in sort of personality test and your personal objective test, and that will give you recommended reading, both podcasts, listening to podcasts and books. So I do that, and then I alternate between listening to recommended podcasts or blink lists from recommended books. And I can recommend you a couple of books as a follow-up to my presentation. But before you get to productivity ones, I'd really like to stress that you read the ones about taking a time out and how to procrastinate in a way that doesn't destroy your ability to focus after. And in there, I would strongly recommend Indestructible from the author of Hooked, and also The Art of Delay. These two books completely changed my perception around these subjects.
Fantastic. And so someone's asked, would I pay £10 for a book with one chapter? Yeah, absolutely. If it's a book that's about an outcome rather than about the experience, which all productivity and personal development and management books are, yeah, absolutely. I'd pay like £100 for a book with one chapter if I could read it in 20 minutes and it had a significant change in my life. The same way I'd pay £10 for one tiny plate of something that was an amazing taste explosion, because I think it's about the outcome rather than the process, particularly around management books.
Yeah, and I think it goes down to the because I agree. It's not all the books are £10. You can buy books for £3 and £4 because there are also credits. But for me, it was working the opposite way. I was paying the membership for Audible every month, which is £11-12, and then I didn't actually get any benefit of it because I would start 4 books and keep switching between chapters and lose sight of what I'm actually reading about. And it's not just productivity, but I was also trying to read parental books at the same time and maybe some relaxation books, and it just didn't give me anything. So I decided to start trying and then go directly to the source of information I was looking for.
Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to finish like today's and the last session for 2020. And just to say that we weren't actually meant to be the last session. We had a bit of a scheduling hiccup late last night, which meant that there was some very last minute reorganizing. And I think that just shows that we're all works in progress and that we're all like constantly battling with timing and how to be productive and make the most of our time. And that it's important to not be too tough on ourselves when things don't work out. But perhaps it was just very serendipitous for us to finish here. So I would like to say a huge thank you, Karolina, for joining me today. I'd like to say thanks to all of my guests that I've spoken to during the Power Hour, to everyone who's watched along, to Pierre and the amazing team at iGaming Next, without whom this would not be possible. And just on that note, to say stay safe and well. I wish you all a very happy and peaceful holiday, however different from normal it may be. And wishing everyone the very best for a much brighter 2021.
And thank you for having me. And I wish everyone the same. Any questions, feel free to ping me. I'm always interested to chat about these people and get different views.